Here.
David Arwood.
Here.
Melissa Pickett.
Here.
Doug Madison. Here. Pete Green. Here. All right, everybody is in attendance. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance. Okay, there's been a couple of minor revisions to our agenda as of right now. There was an addition to some minutes that we have to approve. We have the new principal here that will speak in a few minutes, or we'll at least bring her up and welcome her. That was an addition. And we've moved the overdose in Watauga County to the end of the schedule because she had prior commitments and will be running a little bit late. Has nothing to do with the 22,000 students in Boone, App State, but she will be attending. Now, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from July 9th, 2024? So moved. Have a second? Okay. How do we vote? Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Pete? Aye. And Doug? Aye. Okay. This is the addition to the agenda, the minutes from July 12th, open and closed session, special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
And onward.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Okay, unanimous. And then special meetings minutes from July 23rd, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion for those? Okay, Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Pete? Aye. And Doug? Aye. Okay, the minutes have been approved. Now, adoption of regular agenda. Is there any thoughts on regular agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the Annie Cannon grant resolution off of consent to regular agenda, please.
Okay, we have a request to move the Annie Cannon grant resolution from consent to regular agenda. Do we have a second on this? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the regular agenda with the moving of the Annie Cannon grant resolution to regular agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? Okay. Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. And Pete? Aye. Okay. Under consent agenda, we have the USDA reimbursement resolution. We have the Caldwell County Animal Control, Daughters of the American Revolution proclamation for Constitution Week. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, of course, there's no discussion now. Kat?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. And Pete? Okay. The consent agenda is approved with the changes from Annie Cannon being moved to the regular agenda, or the, which will be, this is not over there, it is, which will be item number 6. 7. All right, public comments. If you would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. And if you would, give your name to Hillary. Steve Cohen. Got a hot dinner date, you're in a hurry. State your name and address.
Steve Cohen, 201 Chestnut Drive. And I know people usually come up during public comment to criticize or to complain about something. And all I wanted to do was to come up here and go on record as saying, Mayor and Council and staff, you're all doing a great job. I know you make some difficult decisions, and I just want to thank you, each and every one of you. And you got a great manager right here. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Well, we finished for the evening, Council.
Wrap it up.
All right, would anybody else like to speak? Okay. Would you like to make this introduction?
Be glad to.
Okay.
Council and Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. So it's my privilege to introduce the new principal at Blowing Rock Elementary School, Madison Holler. And I'll ask Madison if she'd like to come up in a few moments and say a few words. Oh, come stand with me. So I do have a bio here if I would to read. First, I would say most of you realize the importance of having a strong leader at the school because of the partnership that the school and the town has. It's unlike any other school in Watauga County, or really any other school that I know of that exists. It's kind of the small town, idyllic situation in which our school is located right here in the heart of our town. And so our partnership with the school is paramount. It is something that we work on, and we have to have a partnership within the leadership at the school in order to be able to have communication and be able to accomplish what we do as we move forward together. So I've got a bio here, if I could, to read about Ms. Holler. Ms. Holler has recently completed her 12th year in education. She began her career as an intern at Valley Cruises. 10 of the years of those years were spent as a classroom teacher, 1 in 3rd grade and 9 in middle grades. She completed 2 years as assistant principal at Hardin Park School, and she is most excited to be a rocket and immersed in the Blowing Rock community. Her goals for Blowing Rock include ensuring students are learning in a safe environment, embracing our community, and building strong relationships with all stakeholders. Ms. Holler holds a master's degree in curriculum, and in 2020 she completed her national board certification. Some fun facts: she loves all things Disney, books, and baking, especially cookies. Her faith and family are her foundation, and she and her husband Wesley recently completed the foster care process in hopes of becoming foster parents one day. They have a dog, Charlie Stark, who is named after Iron Man. So it's my privilege to introduce Madison Holler, the new principal at Blowing Rock Elementary School, and say thank you to her for coming tonight and our willingness to partner with the town and work forward.
Ms. Holler, please.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. It has been a whirlwind of a couple of months. I started in May, transitioned very quickly from Hardin Park because there was stuff to do. And I spent most of that 2 months meeting with teachers. I met with community members, stakeholders, just to get a feel for the community. And it's a storybook place. I remember a parent saying that to me, and it really just stuck. This is truly a storybook place. And so to get to be in this town and to be the principal at Blowing Rock School is such an honor. I said this in my interview, and I would love to share it with you. There were 2 positions in the county that opened for principal. Number one, I was not willing to go off the mountain. I was not willing to go to another mountain county to be a principal. I was going to be here. But the Lord led me to just apply at Blowing Rock and not the other school, and that's what I did. And I told my faculty yesterday at our back to school meeting that on April 16th, when I interviewed, that I claimed being the Blowing Rock principal that day. And so it's nice that it has been a dream realized, and I'm excited to work with you all and to make our community and our school much more functional, and you all to be in our school, and for our school to be out in the community as well. So thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. I want you to know that 2 of us attended Blowing Rock Elementary,
Okay.
Doug and myself.
And
Doug
that's when I was
attended.
about Charlie's size.
Okay. Touche, Doug.
Owen's age.
Bye, Owen. All right. Now that Doug is finished with the short jokes, we're going to move on to the Foothills Conservancy. We have a presentation here by Andrew Coda. Andrew, how are you again? Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you very much, Shane, for the invitation to come up and present, and Charlie for the support over the years, Mayor Sellers and council members for having me this evening. I'll just do a short introduction about our organization, our land trust, Foothills Conservancy of North Carolina, now that we are landowners in Blowing Rock in this community. talk a little bit about the project and the acquisition of the land that we purchased earlier this year, and discuss briefly some of our plans for the future for that property. So I may have to look over my shoulder to stay on track here. So just briefly, if you distill down what a land trust does to one sentence, our main mission is to complete land transactions, land purchases that result in permanent conservation for natural resources. And in doing so, we're also preserving and protecting some of the cultural heritage of this area and the historical heritage of this area as well. Just point out our vision, which I think most folks can align with here. We envision a thriving region to live and visit with clean water, healthy forests, productive farmland, diverse wildlife, access to outdoor recreation, and communities that value conservation. So all of our work kind of revolves around making this region a better place to live and visit. We are a nationally accredited organization through the Land Trust Accreditation Commission, and that's sort of just an assurance to our donors, our supporters, the public, and our partners that we have the systems and processes in place to function, do our transaction work, our programmatic work, and manage our organization to the highest level of excellence. We've been accredited for about 15 years, and I happen to be a board member on the National Land Trust Accreditation Commission, so it's an honor to be involved in looking at other land trusts throughout the country and see how we kind of compare to some of those organizations. Briefly, we have 10 professional full-time staff members who I hope you'll meet some of these folks over the years, and they help deliver these programs. So our conservation programs, our land transaction program, stewardship and land management. We own several thousand acres, so we're responsible for managing property as well as stewarding conservation easements. We try to include people in the communities where we work in our work through our volunteer and community engagement program. And we have developed a public trails program that I'll touch on briefly here. And of course, nonprofits, so we have fundraising and development and communications and outreach. This map is our 8-county service area, which is 3,500 square miles in size. You can see to the western part of our service region includes the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Eastern Escarpment, down into the foothills and part of the western Piedmont of the state. Our 8 counties are listed on the side, and we do our work in the headwaters of 3 major river basins, the Catawba, the Yadkin, and the Broad River. Those small maroon-colored dots represent all of our transactions over the years, all of our conservation projects that we've completed over the years since 1995, and there should be around 150 of those on this map. It's a little bit dated. I have 2023 projects. I don't know if those even show up, but we have anywhere from 20 to 30 conservation projects in progress at this moment. Since 1995, this year is our 29th year in operation. Next year we'll be celebrating 30 years. We've protected almost 71,000 acres for permanent conservation. So you can see the breakdown there. Our organization actually owns over 10,000 acres that we manage as preserved properties. And we hold conservation easements on 32 parcels of land. Most of the property that we have transacted or preserved, permanently protected over the years, has ended up in public ownership, part of the Pisgah National Forest, or one of the many state game lands and state parks in this area, as well as the National Park Service's Blue Ridge Parkway. So we have great federal and state natural resource agency partners that we work with. We acquire and own land. We buy land, hold it, and then transfer it to another natural resource agency for permanent conservation. We help those agencies acquire land, so we'll negotiate and do all of the fundraising and transaction work, but we're not in the chain of title. We'll hand that over to the state agency just before the closing. We also are an eligible organization to hold conservation easements on private land. And I mentioned we hold about 30 easements on private lands where those landowners continue to own the property and voluntarily restrict their land permanently for conservation purposes. And of course, we develop public parks and trails as well. So to the property here in Blowing Rock, we acquired a 326-acre parcel of land that directly adjoins the Blowing Rock attraction and what was Wheelies, called Wheelies. I don't know what it's called now in its current iteration. Just out of Pinnacle Avenue, so we have road frontage on Pinnacle Avenue, but it includes that that view shed and that parcel of land directly below the Blowing Rock. So if you stand at any of those overlooks, you're peering down into the parcel of land that we purchased back in February of this year. We simultaneously conveyed a conservation easement to the state of North Carolina, the Land and Water Fund, and that essentially restricts future uses on that property. So what we can do with that land is minimal. There's no subdivision rights left. There's no ability to develop residential structures or any commercial activity. It's passive recreation and management to improve the health of the forested resources on this property. Very important parcel of land here in Blowing Rock. Many of you probably already knew that it is the source of the Johns River is on this property. So it is the headwaters of the Johns River, which is very important tributary to the Catawba River, the longest tributary of the Catawba River in the headwaters here. So an important source of water for millions of people downstream. It adjoins the U.S. Forest Service lands, of course, the iconic view shed that you are very well acquainted with. And many people in this community supported our purchase of this land, both in concept and you know, getting behind our organization, but also providing some funding for our organization to be able to acquire the property. This is kind of a neat 3D view. You can see how the land drops off the side of the mountain very quickly and precipitously, and tucks and folds in the landscape, lots of ridges and streams, and then you can see some of the geographical places in Blowing Rock that surround this area. I pulled this snapshot because Charlie and I were talking earlier today, and I'd mentioned that the parcel of land, I believe, is in the Blowing Rock town limits, and so I pulled this snapshot from the Caldwell County GIS to show you that a good third of the tract of land is probably in the town limits, so we are indeed neighbors to the town of Blowing Rock. Just a few amazing photos of the property from the overlook. Once you get down into the tract of land itself, it's unbelievable. There's creek streams all over the place, high biodiversity, wildlife habitat, natural communities are vast through this landscape. So which leads me to sort of a concept that we have for the future use of this property, very much community and public facing. And we have spoken to some community members, presented this concept and this idea at a few different places, and received very positive feedback from the folks that we have spoken to in terms of developing a public trail system on the property so that people can actually access the land, learn about why it's important to this region, and just connect with the property. We know that trails and parks really enhance quality of life in communities, and you have great trails and parks in this area, and we think that this could also serve the community in that capacity as well. So we are in the process. Originally, I was here to ask for the town's support in submitting a grant application for some planning funds through the state, but Caldwell County was not really receptive to that. They weren't supportive of that grant, and so we're just really here I'm here to inform you and hopefully get your moral support for the future. I mean, these types of projects take many years, and I can talk just a bit about the process here. But our idea is to access the land through the U.S. Forest Service property along Globe Road. So because the federal government would be involved as a partner, that extends any type of planning and development by years. They have a strict NEPA process that we would have to follow just to get into the land from down below. We heard feedback from the community that there wasn't high interest in having an access point from part of the parcel that we own along Pinnacle Avenue. So we responded in kind and said, let's look at an alternative method of entry, and we think that the U.S. Forest Service land to the south could do that along Globe Road. So it's really just a line on can I go back? It's really just a line on paper at this point, but there's some thought put behind this in terms of topography and relief of the property and the amount of stream crossings. And so, but our next step really is to talk with and hire a consulting firm to help us design a layout for this trail system. That will take probably a good 6 months to 12 months, maybe longer. We will have some fundraising involved in that, probably to the tune of about $50,000 or so. But once we have that plan, we'll probably be back in the community asking for feedback, and along the way as we're doing the planning, asking for feedback from the community. And then from that point, starting fundraising, working with the federal government on access, and constructing trail in the upcoming years. So this would be years in the making. So that's basically, I think that's about all I wanted to express. I should thank the Bernhardt and Collett family for giving us the opportunity to seek the funding necessary to permanently conserve their land. They were very gracious in giving us time to do that, as well as the Harper family for donating a 3-acre parcel of land that adjoins this tract of land, and Michael Cutlip, who is a landowner here in Blowing Rock, donated 6 acres to our organization last year. So we've assembled about 336 acres of land for permanent conservation right here in Blowing Rock. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Does that mountain bike trail still go down through Cherry Tree Holler down to the Globe Road?
I think the remnants of it are still there. I don't know if many people use it anymore. I've seen it though. I walked up from Globe Road almost to the top there, and so I've seen the remnants of it. It's there, but I'm not sure if people are using it anymore.
Remnants of the old sawmills probably gone too.
Andrew, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Okay, we moved that one. So, capital debt financing resolution.
Thank you, council, for allowing me to speak tonight regarding our annual capital debt financing resolution. So each year, as a part of the annual budget process, we present to you all for consideration a listing of our capital needs. In a few moments, I'll pull up a slide that talks about kind of that list that was a part of the 24-25 budget discussion. So that discussion starts way back in the spring. As you know, we collectively work with our department heads to put together our list of what our needs are. Typically that includes a police cruiser or two and some trucks and vehicles of that nature. And then we move forward with the budget process. Once the budget process is complete, you've approved it, and we get into the new fiscal year, we typically utilize our great credit rating, which we'll see in a few moments, to solicit bids for annual debt financing. In this situation, $592,000, and I'll go into some details about what makes up that $592,000 in just a few moments. But we go through that process, and I'll put up a slide here that kind of goes through some of the information that was within the packet. So as part of the 2024 budget, as I mentioned a few moments ago, the items that are listed here behind me were some of the items that were included as going to be, or as part of the capital financing resolution that you have before you tonight for consideration. You'll see here within the first couple of lines, the $570,000 amount. $592,000 is what is within the resolution. We have a little bit of leeway there because that's an up to amount. So the $592 is an up to amount. These are numbers and information that we had during the budget process. No doubt some of them will change. Some of these quotes are good. Some of these quotes will fluctuate a little bit. So when we looked at $570,000 as part of the budget, 592 is a little bit of a leeway there that includes not only some fees that are included in the financing, but a little leeway with the ability for us to purchase that equipment. But as a part of the annual debt process, we utilize First Tron, which are financial advisors that we've used for a number of years now to help us solicit bids. And so on July 16th, we began the bid process and ended that process last week with 7 bids. And so the next slide you'll have here behind me is a list of those bids, listing in order based on interest rates. These are 4-year terms, again for $592,000, with the low bid being 3.74% from Huntington Bank. As you can see here, there's a number of bids in the 4s, you've got 2 in the 3s and 1 in the 5s. Great rates considering the market. These are the lowest rates, 3.74 or the 3.99 rate that's up there, I think, or the 3.94 rate. 2 rates in the 3s. First time in over a year and a half that First Tron has seen rates in 3s for capital. So I think that's telling of maybe the market and confidence in the fact that we have the credit rating that we do. So I'm here tonight to present the offer of 3.74% for Huntington Bank for a total loan amount of up to $592,000 for a 4-year term. And our finance director, Ms. Brown's here as well, and can answer any questions you have regarding either the solicitation process, the bid process, or the capital itself.
Council? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Additional discussion? Any additional questions? Okay.
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
And Pete?
Aye.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All
I
right.
did have,
Any?
is it too late to ask one question?
Yes.
So we put a lot of things on hold during COVID.
Yes.
Are we caught up on those things that we had kind of put on the shelf?
We are. We believe that we are. So on capital for the COVID year 2021 into 22, we did push pause on things that weren't absolutely necessary. And it did push us behind a year or two. Last year's capital amount was close to $700,000. This year's at 592 is a little bit higher. So if you recall the conversation during the budget process, we really like for that number to be in the 4s because I think that's kind of a consistent pattern. So after this year, we hope to see that number go back into the 4s. So this was still a little bit of a catch-up year, but the majority of it was last year. So yes, I do think we're where we need to be with the needs that we have from a capital perspective.
Sorry, that question was late, Mayor.
You know, your wife's here. She's going to.
I know. It wasn't a good show.
All right, so good to go. Thank you. Annie Cannon grant request. Would you like to lead this off?
Sure, let me just grab my notes here. I apologize.
And I will say that if you would like to defer to any of the representatives from the foundation.
As
If
I'm
they have
flipping through
questions,
and
then-
not ready for this, I would ask for, if the Village Foundation would like to come up and maybe assist in any questions that may be asked. I've got.
John, would you like to come up and?
People have questions.
Yes, come on up. Come on, John.
Trying to find my report here.
For those of you who don't know him, his name's John Aldrich. You see him occasionally on Main Street.
So if I could, I'll start,
Okay.
Council and Mayor, by reading the staff report that I think kind of provides a little bit more background. So Village Foundation, which is represented tonight by John Aldrich and their Executive Director, Gina Harwood, has been working with the town and potentially transforming what we call our Andy Cannon Gardens or our Glen Burnie Trailhead. So right now we're in the conceptual stages of this. It has not gone through the typical process. They will go through ultimately before it's approved, which is through our public lands board, our PLAR board, what used to be BRAC, and then before town council. So we are a little premature within that. That being said, there are some monies at the state level right now for grants, grant construction, grant planning. Part of what was going to be discussed tonight by Foothills was going to be some of the planning grant money that's out there. So there are some monies that are available. However, the deadline for that is September the 4th. And so we're in a little bit of a time crunch, so to speak, if we want to get within this cycle. And so part of the reasoning of putting it on the agenda tonight was for consideration of the town, which would be the grant, not only the applicant, but the administrator with partnership with the Council of Governments, High Country Council of Governments here, was to be able to move forward with potentially having application in time for the September the 4th deadline. And so the questions that you may have from the trail itself or from the project, John or Ms. Harwood may be able to answer in a little bit more detail. But from a town's perspective, we were brought in the last few weeks with the potential of having conversations and partnerships with the High Country Council of Governments that led us to a meeting last week with the High Country Council of Governments. They made it known at that point they felt like it was feasible for the application to be completed and submitted prior to the September the 4th deadline. As the town, and of course as a COG member, we would be, again, the applicant. The COG would do the application, the submittal, and ultimately administer the grant. However, we would be the fiscal agent of that grant, similar to what we've done in the past with other grants. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, or maybe Mr. Aldridge would like to come up and provide any detail.
Oh, sure, everybody look at me. No, I did have a couple of questions.
Certainly.
Since it's a concept, if you apply on the concept, are we locked into that if the grant is approved, since it has not been brought before any entities of the town? Would be one of my questions.
The answer is no. So the town, this is a matching grant for the tier in which we're in. The grant is up to $500,000. It starts at $100,000 minimum and could go to $500,000. For instance, a $500,000 grant would require a match of $250,000. That does not obligate the town for the $250,000. Doesn't obligate the town to even receive or accept the $500,000 if the council or another entity was to deny the concept at that point. So does not obligate us at this point for any financial reasons.
And it doesn't obligate us to the plan that, the concept plan that is submitted with the grant.
It does not. So it's a point system. I won't say that it's as stringent as the Pardiff point system, but there is a point system given for the existence of a trail or the history of the trail and the use of the trail. So it's similar to a Pardiff. There's information now that the Council of Governments is trying to compile about the history of the trail, the use of the trail, the proximity of the trail to the town, and things of that nature. So that's kind of where we are right now. That being said, no, there's no obligation there. There will be an approval if we are fortunate, or the Village Foundation, the town's fortunate to receive approval for the grant. There'll be an approval based on X factors, and so those will be key within the ultimate approval of the overall project.
Then what is the term on the grant? How long, like, if you submit in September?
Once awarded, it's 36 months.
Okay, so it's a 3-year grant, okay.
And this is matching.
It is matching. In our situation, it's 50 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar, it's 50 cents. So again, up to 500,000, which would be 250. I did put in the staff report, and again, John may want to speak towards the Village Foundation's commitment to this project. And I think there's some other fundraising endeavors and things of that nature that are out there that could help go towards that match, and then some. John, would you like to make any comments, or am I answering that correctly?
Well, if they have questions, we've talked to private foundations. The fundraising is really just starting. It's very much in the conceptual stage. This grant, the estimated cost of this is about $1 million. So this grant is going to be critical, but we have had discussions with private foundations and other sources of money. Now, whether we can raise the money or not, it's just like our other projects. At this point, who knows? But we've been successful in the past, and we think we will be successful now. And, Shane was great in introducing us to the Council of Government. They're just fabulous. I had no idea, really, what they do, but they have stepped forward, and because of the history of the trail and where it is and how important it is to Blowing Rock, they were fairly bullish. So we're excited, but we need this grant. You know, this is a heavy lift for the Village Foundation, but it goes on in the tradition. It's not a tradition yet, but I guess with maybe Plaza and the History Walk, we've had a couple of successful large projects with the town. So this is another public-private partnership that we're very excited about, and we thank the town for joining us.
Council, any more questions? I mean, it looks like it's very much in its infancy. I mean, but if they have grant money available and we're not held obligated, and I think it's probably a good idea.
The ask tonight, that was within the staff report, is for approval to allow the COG to move forward with writing and submitting the grant. So that's the ask tonight. There is a one-page document the mayor will certify that took place in the minutes that go along with that for this meeting, along with an official certification from our attorney about the property, ownership of the property, et cetera. So those are two pieces that were in the packet originally that within the consent agenda that would be up for approval tonight.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
There's
We have a
no
motion.
discussion. That we allow the High Country COG to go ahead with the application for the grant.
second,
Second.
Melissa second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay,
Aye.
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. Doug? You got it? Aye, okay. Now, John, will
Must not
this,
heard me.
I do, will this include an elevator to bring you back up when you get down at the bottom? Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
McKinney is here. Ms. McKinney, good evening. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready
Yeah,
for me?
we're ready for you. Yes, thank you for coming.
Fantastic. Thank you.
This is the End Overdose in Watauga County. This is Mary McKinney. So Mary McKinney, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I really do appreciate you taking the time to consider this proclamation, and those of you here who didn't even know I was going to be talking about this, to listen to this nonetheless. I was very much reminded of the impact of being able to speak about this topic publicly when last year I was doing this round of asking for proclamations, and in one of the other towns, an emergency medical services worker, professional, approached me afterwards and told me that he didn't have access to naloxone, the overdose reversal medication, in his job. And I was able to help make that connection, and so that very likely may have helped save some lives right there. So you don't know who's listening, and I appreciate everybody for taking time to listen to me tonight to speak just a little about this. This year's International Overdose Awareness Day campaign theme is Together We Can. End Overdose in Watauga is both an event and a group, and each year on August 31st or thereabouts, we celebrate, come together in conjunction with IOAD, or End Overdose in Watauga. I'm sorry, IOAD, International Overdose Awareness Day. According to the CDC, there were 14 deaths in Watauga County in 2022. And their provisional data indicates the number of deaths by overdose in 2023 dropped to 9 in Watauga County. In 2022, the CDC reported 30 emergency department visits for overdose, and that reported number increased to 43 this past year in 2023 in our county. It's important to recognize that this increase in ED visits might mean more people seeking help, not necessarily more overdoses occurring, and that it might even correlate to the decrease of deaths. We also know, however, that one overdose death is too many. However, every time also that I speak with anyone who works in the fields of recovery, harm reduction, public health or emergency medical response. They share that the statistics related to overdose deaths and lives saved by overdose reversal medications are flawed because of problems with the reporting systems, and that the actual numbers are significantly higher. Still, we hope that the provisional CDC data for last year indicates that we are making progress in saving lives. As I look around this room, I am confident that if each of you who has struggled with your own substance use problems or with that of someone, those of someone you love, and I asked you to stand, probably the majority, if not everybody in the room, would join me on your feet. And sadly, if I asked you to then take your seat, if you had never lost someone about whom you cared to overdose, or cared about someone who survived an overdose, the majority of us would remain standing. Some of you might be feeling relieved that I didn't actually ask you to stand. That sort of relief, when it is felt, is usually, at least in part, connected to a sense of stigma about substance use disorders or overdose. In my roles, as a psychotherapist, community organizer, and church leader, I work daily to shatter the stigma that keeps people from talking about these risks and losses and from seeking help. Simply, stigma kills people. Sharing our experiences and needs is key to shattering stigma so more people can seek and offer good help. Along with our county and state statistics, I will offer some numbers from my family. Some of you might have been somewhere that I've spoken about this before, so I appreciate and thank you for the honor of allowing me to share again. The first set of numbers from my family is impossible to estimate. These numbers include the numbers of times my daughter's lives were at risk as a result of their unmanageable substance use, the number of times my phone rang and I braced for the worst news, and the number of times that other worst news was given to me, and the number of nights that I simply didn't sleep because the phone didn't ring at all. These numbers accumulated for well over a decade. Thankfully, we are currently among the lucky ones. My older daughter has been abstinent from substance use today consecutively again for 8 months and 25 days. And we anticipate celebrating 4 years of continuous sobriety for my baby daughter on Saturday, August 17th. They are both actively recovering now, but for many years they suffered in isolation and shame. As a mental health professional, I had some relevant knowledge and insight, but it was simply no match for the shame, terror, overwhelm, despair, and sheer exhaustion created by the control these substances had over their brains and their abilities to make different choices for an awfully long time. As they courageously recover now, they are able to speak about the stigma they had internalized and the shame they carried that blocked them from help and kept them in danger. Rewiring their brains from the harm done to them and to us is the work of recovery. And I cannot begin to quantify my gratitude that they are alive to do this work of recovery and for us to do this work as a family. EOIW, or End Overdose in Watauga, is a day and an event offering encouragement and tools to help us see and love, remembering that love is a verb, to love the people for whom substances threaten their lives and the people who love them. EOIW is a day and an event offering space to help carry the weight of grief for people who have lost loved ones to overdose. And surely that weight is far more than any one person or family can carry on their own. The actions of this seeing and loving include rejecting stigma about people for whom substance use has become unmanageable or deadly. These actions include making overdose prevention and reversal information and supplies easily available and being ready to save a life. As long as there is breath, there is life, and in all life there is value. On August 31st, overdose prevention and reversal training and supplies will be available for free at numerous locations across Boone and different times. That evening, we will gather for resource tables, space for holding grief as a community, and a candlelight vigil to remember those we have lost, led in that time by people with that lived experience of loss. Details can be found on the Facebook page for End Overdose in Watauga and will be forthcoming in the paper as well. In addition to shattering stigma to save and improve lives, it is also critical that people who need help have easy access to the overdose reversal medication, naloxone or Narcan, and to test strips to show them what is actually in their drug supply so the risk of overdose is reduced. I have organized EOIW since 2021. Since 2022, I've been working to place purple cupboards in our community. They're kind of like little free pantries or little free libraries, holding naloxone, fentanyl test strips, xylazine test strips, resources and information for multiple paths to recovery, and resources and help for grief support, including a mailbox that I check regularly that people can use for notes to remember and honor their lost loved ones. A purple cupboard will be installed at the EOIW site and then moved to another location after that. Today, there are 3 purple cupboards in our county installed currently with these supplies in them, and 2 more will be installed very soon in our county, and plans are coming for several more. I hope you will all look for these purple cupboards and contact me if you want to know more information or if you perhaps want to host one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for considering this proclamation and for giving time for this important conversation to action and awareness for us to hold grief together and for saving and improving lives. And thank you all for looking for your opportunity to reject stigma, learn about resources, and be ready to help save and improve lives. Indeed, truly, we together can end overdose. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. Thank you so much for taking the time and working on this so strongly, because it is in the best interest of all our citizens. Now,
Thank you.
I will read the proclamation. Whereas Blowing Rock, North Carolina does affirm and acknowledge the harm and hardship caused by drug overdose. And whereas we recognize the purpose of International Overdose Awareness Day as remembering loved ones lost to overdose and ending the stigma of drug-related deaths. And whereas we resolve to play our part in reducing the toll of overdose in our community, which claimed the lives of 9 people in Watauga County in 2023, together with countless more affected forever. And whereas we resolve to play our part in reducing deaths by overdose, knowing that 68.6% of the 4,002 overdose deaths in North Carolina in 2022 had at least one potential opportunity for intervention. And whereas we affirm that the people affected by overdose are our children, our parents, our siblings, our neighbors, and they deserve our love, compassion, and support, easy access to life-saving supplies and treatment. And whereas we affirm that the people who love people at risk of overdose or grieve those lost are our children, our parents, our siblings, our neighbors, and deserve our love, compassion, and support, and opportunities to remember their loved ones publicly. Therefore, the town of Blowing Rock does hereby proclaim August 31st, 2024 as End of Overdose in Watauga County, End of Overdose in Watauga Day in Blowing Rock, North Carolina, and encourage all residents to consider being trained in the use of life-saving overdose reversal medications and having it available to use, to seek education resources for support of people with substance use disorders and the people who love them, and to seek education and support of people who grieve those lost to overdose deaths. This, the 13th day of August, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And do you all approve? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody bring my makeup? Okay. Why don't you, let's see.
You want to have her just stand?
Yeah,
up
why
in
don't you
the
just
middle?
stand right up here? And,
Take a picture of you.
yes, and Shane, would you stand with her? Oh, you're gonna take
I'll
it.
take a picture of you.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Can get all of us.
Gets in.
Everybody smile. Here we go. Ready? Pete, ready? Make sure that looks okay. Not the best.
Hillary, you should have told us we needed makeup tonight.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work. Thank you.
Hillary said, always look your best.
All right, well, moving right along, we have our official reports and comments. I'm gonna keep mine brief tonight. The state of the town is Thursday, April 15th at Brom from 5:30 to 7. For those that would like to attend. Did I say August? Oh, August 15th. Strike that one, Hillary. August 15th, 5:30 to 7 at Brom. And I am aware that we do have a planning board meeting that night, and I know there's other things, but if you can make it, Shane will be more than happy to fill you in on all the upcoming events. So hope you can attend. Guess that's it. Kat,
I don't have anything tonight.
David? No. Melissa? Doug? Thank you, Doug.
If you want to see an old dog try and do some new tricks, come to Groovy Nights starting Sunday and running Sunday, Tuesday, and next Friday.
I can't believe you're still doing that. Pete?
Just a couple things, condolences to the Penninger family, who lived up on Green Hill, on Chester's passing. I hope there was no communication problem while we resolve our situation with the tower moving forward, which we need to do as quickly as possible. Second thing is, as chairman of the Economic Development Commission, I gathered some people to talk about all things state, county, and local. Had Dustin Hall, who will be the new speaker, Representative Pickett, and Todd Castle from the county, and each went into great detail about what's going on in their respective areas. I asked Shane to facilitate the meeting. He did a great job. And I'll just ask Shane, either in your remarks or now, just to give a brief summary of what we talked about.
So a lot of things going on at the state level. So coming out of short session now, long sessions next year. So the budget process will take a good deal of time next year, along with, I'm sure, passages of local bills and et cetera. So a lot of conversations about the upcoming election, which is the primary focus right now, of course, going into November. But a lot of discussion about the area and the growth of the area, tourism, discussions about the TDA and the possibility of seeing maybe some funding changes with regards 2/3, 1/3 So a lot of high-level conversations about the area and what makes the area move along, which is in our situation is tourism,
Thank you.
certainly.
Thank you, Pete.
Yes, Tucker may have
Tucker?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
Shane?
Thank you, Council. I've got a few slides here, nothing too much. We're on good time here, so I do have a couple updates. Of course, on our projects, start with our largest project to date. Our Main Street project continues to move along. They're up to about 221 now with the service tie-ins and the cross connections. So the plan is to move on down Main Street, or up Main Street, so to speak, technically down Main Street, south towards Brom over the next 30 or 40 days. And that's about what's left within the project for completion. So you've got our main stretch here. Hopefully things will slow down somewhat in town. I say that, the principal may disagree. So we have worked with the contractor as school starts back next week to not be in the roadway before school traffic is completed each morning, and then work with the school traffic afterwards in the afternoon. So we're about 30 to 40 days from that project to be project completion. Put on here Maple Street, 221 and Green Street. So as the project, Main Street project's growing to a close, we are trending towards some decent savings from the overall budget. Again, that was state money that was allocated to us, $4.8 million. So we don't return that money back to the state, and we have spoken to the state and our local representatives, Mr. Pickett and Heiss, Senator Heiss, about utilizing that money for other projects that were on our upcoming to-do list. Maple Street Water and Sewer, 221 Water and Sewer, that is from the intersection of Main Street to Green Street, and then Green Street Water. And so we feel confident that the project's not only on time, but it's going to save the overall budget considerably enough for us to be able to accomplish a majority of these projects. What it doesn't accomplish, we do have bond money, and the bond money was set aside from 2014 to complete these projects. So you'll hear more about that as the next month or so kind of rolls along where we are. Right now, we're still in that planning stage, preliminary permitting stage. But all good news on the Main Street project. Not only are we on schedule, but we're also under budget. And the state has given us preliminary approval to utilize those savings towards these other projects. Water and sewer on Maple Street, 221, and then water on Green Street. That being said, you can anticipate construction continuing on into the winter months on these projects with mindful understanding of leaf season, October being a real peak season for traffic, and we've discussed that with the contractor, and they're mindful of it as well. So we'll work through those logistics. A lot of work in the last couple of weeks on Laurel Lane. I want to publicly thank again the Mayview Homeowner Association for their partnership with the work on Laurel Lane. So the Mayview Homeowner Association met with me and staff a couple months ago and talked through some monies and funding that they were able to accumulate and wanted to put towards and contribute towards the revamping of Laurel Lane. And so Laurel Lane, especially the median, there's a lot of historical value there with that. Goes back to the Mayview Manor. And so for a number of years, we've had rocks that have been crumbling, and we've had some cars that have taken some chunks out of one end or the other, delivery trucks, etc. So if you've seen the work that's been done the last couple of weeks, it looks a ton better than it already did a couple weeks ago. So they're about a week or so away from completing that project, which essentially is replacing the fallen rocks and remortaring the rocks that have fallen in disrepair, along with placing some large boulders on each end to help with some of those collisions that have taken place over the last several decades. After that work's complete, more than likely that'll be next week. The same contractor is going to move down to the spillway. Again, these two items were talked about at the summer retreat. Remove a large section of the spillway that's just become into a state of disrepair and place large boulders, very similar to what you've seen out here on the end of Laurel Lane, along the bank itself to kind of help establish the bank and stabilize the bank, and then large boulders throughout the curve and the curvature of the spillway itself to help some of the undermining that's going to take place. And then as the rocks are being placed and some of that water is being diverted, they're going to backfill the ribbon, so to speak, around the wall with concrete. And so that'll be put into place. And so you'll see that work, maybe not as much as Laurel Lane, it'll be kind of out of sight, but off the spillway on the other side of the lake. That work will start within the next week or two. Again, that same contractor that's been working on Laurel Lane is going to be completing that work. Chestnut Sewer, we talked about, again, about a month or so ago, repair of an existing sewer line and actually relocation of that line to allow for potential sewer expansion. So we did have a line that was in need of repair, and through conversations about moving that line to a different location than it was currently located at within the street level and replacing a manhole and setting a manhole, it does allow us to move forward with potential sewer expansion, which I know is going to be a hot topic that we talk about going into the winter retreat. Once that work is complete, same contract's going to move on to our lift station. That was a part of last year's budget, was approved. We call that the Grandfather Lift Station. That's up there past Grandfather Avenue, again on Chestnut Circle. As you see, that sit on the kind of the side of the road. So that work's either underway on the Chestnut side of the sewer or soon to be underway on the Grandfather Lift Station side. USDA, we did have a piece again tonight. I think you'll continue to see some USDA stuff come your way about every month or two, as it's a very long process. However, if you recall back in July, we did approve the USDA term sheet and offer for the USDA loan. Again, that's a low interest loan that we've been able to accomplish or to obtain, and that's for our water plant upgrades, wastewater plant, and our Mayview lift station. So that work continues in the design stage, and that's going to take another 6 to 10 months or so worth of design stage, and then the bidding process, and then you'll see the work begin about this time next year, give or take. Our police chief process, I did want to give everyone an update. We have gone through a round or two, and we're now into our final round, and that will take place here in person here in the next couple of weeks. We do have a panel that we've assembled, not only of staff and internal individuals, HR director, and myself. We've also asked and received acceptance from an outside individual or two to sit on that panel that does bring police experiences. So that process is well underway, and like I said, within the final stages, so to speak, and more than likely we'll have that announcement to come forth by the end of the month or the 1st of September, definitely by the time we roll back in here for our regular meeting in the month of September. Wanted to provide some updates. I did not realize until I started putting this up here, every one of these dates are on the same date. These are August 15th. So if you're looking for things to do on August 15th, starting at 1 o'clock, we do have a whole long line of things to accomplish that day. So 1 o'clock is the EDC meeting over at Caldwell Community College, Technical Institution, the Watauga campus. 2 o'clock is the ABC board meeting. That's down at the ABC store. 5:30 is planning board, and state of the town's at 5:30. So the 15th will be a busy day. As we have talked about over the last couple months, we established our Employee of the Month program. This month, like last month, was a unanimous decision. This person has been with us for a number of years, but has not always been in the same role. This person has most recently, in the past year, taken on a department head role. This person has exceeded all expectation and continues to be someone that I have to force to go home, someone that I have to make, stop working. This person has led us through not only an audit that had never been led through before, but into the budget process, and now back into the audit. And so the Employee of the Month this month is Tasha Brown, which is our finance director. So I wanted to make that.
She doesn't want a picture, does she?
She may. With that concludes my updates. Be glad to answer any questions or make any comments towards any other items that we may have.
We good, Council? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess for about 10 minutes, and then we will go back into closed session under.
Closed session will be under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Thank you for attending.